Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Eric Bird, here at StopStrugglingNow.com. And today, we're going to talk about real estate, buying a house. And there's few things that are involved with that. Many people do never think about the expenses, the cost of owning a home. Hell, people don't think about the cost of owning anything. They just throw money away and think they're winning. Well, we're going to talk about it today. And welcome to Foci Optics. Check. Stop struggling now. Gear. Check. And please like, subscribe, and click the bell below so you get the latest updates. Now, let's get to it. All right, welcome back. Here we are on the Stop Struggling Now YouTube channel page. And please, like I always say, please share the videos. There's a lot of people that need a little help, and this is the No Guru Zone. So we're trying to help people. There's no cost whatsoever. You won't see me selling any courses. So here we go. We have the join button over here on the right. YouTube was kind enough to have a membership button for us. So if you'd like to support the channel, please click the join button. We're going to be talking about some real estate, so it might upset a few people because a lot of people are under the misconception, is what I call it, that they're going to buy a house, save their money, buy a house, and then sit around and wait for the house to appreciate, and then you get HELOCs and you use some of the equity to possibly buy more property, which can be done. But the reason why it can be done is because home prices have traditionally increased. Now, if you knew about before around 1980, most of the time home prices only went up 1 to 3% per year. But with the advent of being able to borrow money with a little bit of down payment, that meant now people can buy more home and get higher mortgage rates than what they used to be able to do. So this is how you all of a sudden started having home prices increase 5%, 10% a year. Then you would find hot spots where people want to move to, and home prices would go up like 5 to 10% every 3 months to 6 months. We have a situation like that right now in a place like Austin, Texas, where seemingly you can put a deposit on a house that's 400 grand. It could be worth 500 grand by the time it's built in a year, less than a year. So this is what's going on, and there are pockets in the United States that this does happen. You have an increase, but right now with the pandemic, we're going to have a situation where home prices could go down. So today, I'm going to go over a scenario where a lot of people keep hitting me up saying, hey, Eric, I'm trying to buy a house right now, and most of the time, unless you're doing 3% FHA loan, most people are being asked to put down 20%. And if you're going to put down 20%, doesn't it make sense that you put down 20% to buy a property that is income producing? Why would you buy a property to live in? You should put down your 20%, and then you have money coming in every month. Then you can use some of that money coming in every month to live wherever you want to live. That is what I'm going to be talking about today. And we're going to be talking about investments. So before I get into it, of course, I got to go to the Stop Struggling Now merch page. We have merchandise, ladies and gentlemen, and we have free shipping, no tax. The price is what you see. And not only that, 10% off with promo code 2020. So you can see here, hard work, emerging millionaires, CEO of my life, different colors. And if you don't see a color that you like, then you can order and then email me and say, hey, Eric, I want this color. We can do it like that, ladies and gentlemen. We're flexible, thanks to Grand Illusion. So anyhow, without further ado, also down below in the description, you can get your free share of stock, because this is going to be important once I show you what you're using as a down payment and what you may be missing out on. And you're missing out on getting a free share of stock if you don't go to Robinhood. Please use the link down below. And also a free share of stock with Webull. Also, when you sign up and verify your email address and link a bank account, not deposit any money, link a bank account. At Webull, once you deposit they send you another free share of stock. And since this is about Stop Struggling Now, I've mentioned this before, but when you have downloaded these apps and you have signed up, you also have a link that you can share with other people. So if you have been doing what I've been saying for the last 2 years to get your online presence or even started, even if you only have 5 people that watch what you're doing, it does not matter. You can put your link down to help other people get free shares of stock and turn into almost a referral marketing system. And when you refer other people, you also will get a share of stock. So that's another way that you can just make money by helping other people out. Simple. All right, let's get down to it. I chose Orlando, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to buy a house, if you're amenable to moving to Florida, Orlando, Florida has a ton of homes, and they have a ton of homes in pre-foreclosure and in foreclosure already. Can you imagine what's going to happen 6 months from now when forbearances are done? Can you imagine what's going to happen when parks are shut down that employ thousands of people? Can you imagine when there's other businesses there that's going to be shut down, mom and pop businesses that will not restart because they didn't get any PPP loan money, they didn't get any EIDL, enough disaster relief, or SBA loan money? They're going to be shut down. Where are these people going to live? They're not going to be living in these homes. There's going to be a ton of homes for sale in Florida, and in fact, the homes in Florida are already cheap enough. You can get for $200,000. You can get basically a 2,000 square foot house. So I'm going to give an example of what I'm talking about. I just Googled this today. So don't think that I did something crazy. I just went to Zillow, I put in Orlando, and then I looked for what was available for rent, and then I looked what was available for sale in the same area because I wanted to kind of match the same zip code at least, or the same streets or something like that, so then people would understand what I'm talking about a little better. So as you can see here, this is the first one and the only one I'm going to be talking about here. This is for rent right now in Orlando, Florida. All right, now I don't know the neighborhood, but you can see there's a little lake, I guess, over here, Lake Potter, whatever that means. But the house is renting, or they're asking, it's not being rented right now, but they're asking for $2,035 a month. Now, in most situations, people will say, well, that's kind of a lot of money depending on where you live. If you live in California, Vegas, or Arizona and Seattle, you'd be saying that's nothing. Other places, if you live down in the southern areas of the country, you might say, okay, that's maybe a bit too much. But nonetheless, this is in real time. So you can see here, it's 1,879 square feet, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, and somebody's going to rent this so roughly around $2,000, even if it's the $2,035 for everybody on podcast. So we're talking about zip code 32812, and again, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,879 square feet, Mystic Cove Drive, Orlando, Florida, 2802 Mystic Cove Drive. That's what they're trying to rent this home for. Now, so what I did was I went over here and I said, okay, this is the closest one, square footage wise, the closest. It's on Mystic Point Court. I don't really know if it's off, but it looks like it's pretty close if I go by this little map area, because there's the map here and there's Lake Potter. So it's on the other side of Mystic Cove Drive, and it's off of Mystic Cove Drive, of course, and it's Mystic Point, so you can see there. So I'll go back to this one. So Mystic Point should be right here. So it's right here where I'm circling. And so it's that close. So it's, if we were doing an assessment, if both homes were for sale and either one of them sold, then the appraiser would be using one of those properties as the appraisal price. So in other words, this house is selling at 5215 Mystic Point Court for $309,000. If the other house at Mystic Cove Drive was for sale and you were going to put it up for sale, you would base it on this house right here that's less than seemingly a quarter of a mile away or so. You would say, okay, if that house sold for 309, then my house is worth 309. That's basically how you do your appraisal prices, and that's generally how you figure out how much you're going to buy a home for as well as sell a home for. So if that house over here, the rental, if that house was damaged in any sort and things like that, and somebody, instead of selling it for 309, they're selling it for 269. Now you see how you can be in the market for rehab, fix up, wholesale, flipping, that because you would have almost a $60,000 difference. And since that's the asking price, you might even be able to get it down a little lower, or you might be able to get 10,000 off because of damage from renters or whatever. So you could be a $60,000 where now 20% down. If I got to put 20% down anyhow, then why not? Okay, then flip it. Or you can do wholesaling deal where you can assign the contract to somebody else and somebody give you 10,000 or something like that. But either way, I'm just saying you have to think about this when you're an entrepreneur, that opportunities are going to be coming up here, ladies and gentlemen, over the next year. Okay? So now you need to have your duffel bag of cash or some way to access a duffel bag of cash in case deals come up. And this is single family homes. Now, of course, the ideal scenario would be the more units you have, the better. So if you can get a duplex or threeplex or fourplex for the same type of money down, that would be great. But in Florida, you might not be able to do it, but in other states. But anyhow, for our purposes right now, this is live. This is what you can go to Zillow right now and see these properties, one for rent, one for sale. The reason why I'm going to use this is we're going to say that I'm just going to go, the house is going to sell for 309. The odds of that is, I'll just tell you right now, slim. Because in today's economy, a lot of homes are available, so that means they're probably going to have to reduce their price if this stays on the market long enough. In fact, look, it's already been on the market for 6 months, 178 grand. 178 days. So let's just say it's overpriced. So we already can see where the price should be 299 maybe or something like that. But that's because there's a pandemic. But we're just going to assume that we're going to buy this house at 309 and the rental price is 2035. Now, if you're going to buy a house for 309, you're going to have to put down, in today's economy, most likely 20%. Okay? I don't have, oh, there we go. Okay, so you can see here on the screen, I already did the mortgage calculator breakdown. You know how we do it here. We do facts. We don't do hypotheticals. So 20% down, and I went with a score between 620 and 719, but I switched up the score and it didn't matter. But taxes are only like 1%, because after you put down the $61,800, you only owe $247. Taxes are around 1.09, so they're almost correct here at 2,400, which is what, $200 additional per month. So after it's all said and done, you're going to be paying, and you have to add your things that people don't talk about, your yearly homeowner's insurance for your home. So that adds another $283 to the payment. And as you can see here, total payment $1,435. All right. Now you might say, okay, that's reasonable or unreasonable, whichever your perspective is. But for the sake of argument here, we have 209 or 2,035 a month. So if I was trying to rent this out, let's just say that I'm going to be making, theoretically, after 1,435, that's 600 a month, right? If I'm able to rent that out. 2035 minus 600. So some people might say, okay, so the guys that did it for a rental, buy and rent, is making $600 a month. Fair enough. Now, remember, you had to put down $61,000, right? You do remember that. So keep that in mind, because that's money out of your pocket. Like I said, I have it in my bank account, or I have it in my brokerage account, margin account, whatever account, bank account, it doesn't matter. I have $61,800 that I took out, and now let's just say that's all the money I had. Now my bank account says zero. Now I'm getting an exchange. I have access to a home, which doesn't have any real value at this point, because I lived there. And I owe another $247,000 on a loan. and I put down 61,800, as you can see here. Now, what a lot of people do not understand, I put in a 30-year loan. A lot of times people will not get to the 30 years because most people actually in America, you move on average 7 times. Americans move on average 7 times in their lifetime. All right? So just keep that in mind as well. So what does that mean? That means a lot of times people, 2008, when the crisis occurred, people had to move. And now in the pandemic, people are going to have to move. So you could have a large part of the population moving in less than 12 years, 13 years. So you could see that average would almost be right for the average American. So again, these are important numbers to keep in mind, because what most people do not look at is in 30 years, this is how much you have paid. See down here, this $516,664? This is why I've said this before, why this kind of has irked me when I've been talking with my neighbors. Who's ever been a subscriber have heard me say this before. My neighbors would say, hey, I bought my house for 700 grand. It's worth $850,000 now because the one up the street that's almost like mine sold. That's cool, $150,000 equity. And my immediate response has always been, why are you moving? Because without selling the home, you cannot get the $150,000 equity. But what also is not understood is how much money did you have to put down and how much money of interest are you paying? But you don't realize when you're paying mortgage that you're actually paying more than what you bought the house for. That's what people fail to realize. So now at the end of 30 years, when a guy walks out of his $300,000 house that he bought 30 years ago and he proudly proclaims, man, I'm going to sell my house for $550,000. I made like $250,000. And I'm like, no, you didn't. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, do you realize how much money you've been paying over the last 30 years or 20 years or 15 years? And they're like, no, but I bought the house for $309. Yeah, well, you paid $516, so you better hope the house is worth $550. That's all I'm trying to say, ladies and gentlemen. These are the little things that you forget. And they also forget about maintenance and upkeep. When 30 years goes by, okay, look, who has a 30-year roof on their house? A lot of people. But roofs may not last 30 years depending on the climate you live in, the weather patterns, things like that. An AC unit, a furnace. These are things that do not live for 30 years. At around 10 to 15 years, your AC unit is going to have a problem. All right? Whether it goes out or has issues, you're going to have to, unless you're in the heating and air conditioning business, you're going to have to call somebody, and that little $250, $300, or who knows how much it'll be these days, $500, that somebody's coming out there to look at it, then replace it and do whatever. People don't think nothing about that. When you need that AC unit, you should have it serviced every year. Nobody does that. They let it rot. Usually 3-4 years go by, and then when something happens, they service it. But you should be servicing it every year. The furnace, you should also be servicing that every year, 2 years max. But nobody adds those costs into, not only is it the $516, but that's also cost of owning the home, okay? Which I include, because if I got to spend $5,000 for an AC unit, that $516 price is now $521. If my shingles go off my house because of a storm, and those shingles cost me $500 to replace and patch and have somebody come out here, we're talking another $500. So now instead of $521, we're at $521, $522. So in 30 years, when somebody says my fridge went out and I got to replace it for 2 G's or 1 G, it doesn't matter. That again is cost of living. Now, here's what I'm saying. Most people are going to say, hey, Eric, they always tell me not to rent. I said, of course they tell you not to rent. You know why? Because who do you think owns these mortgage companies? Who do you think owns the paper where they get to turn into a derivative? You can sell the paper, first of all. So just because they give you a loan, they gave you a loan for $247,000, but they get to run up there when they have 10 homes, 20 homes, 100 homes, and they offer those homes all in a lump sum and tell you, hey, I tell somebody on Wall Street hedge funds, I go, hey man, I got $5 million worth of property people are paying on time. How much will you give me for it? They say, it doesn't really matter what they say. They can say 2 million. All I know is here, give me my 2 million up front. Why am I going to wait for this little 30,000 a month or 20,000 a month that I'm going to be getting for these 10 or 15 homes that I have, when I can have a valuation of 300,000 times 15 is 4.5 million. And somebody says, Eric, we'll give you 1.7 for the paper. Thank you very much. I didn't even put out anything. All I did was give you a loan, and you haven't even paid me back yet, but I get to turn it into 1.7 million cash. Meanwhile, this other loan company comes in the back and says, hey, now you have a new loan company. This is who you send your payments to. This happens in cars when it's paper. This happens with homes when it's paper. That's how they do it. It's a derivative. Once you understand this, of course, you're programmed. Buy a house. Why? Because it goes up. Why? Because now you have wealth, because you own your own home. But you don't. Try not to pay your taxes for 4 or 5 years and see what happens. Try not to pay your water bill. Try not to pay your HOA bill for years. See what happens. You think you own your house? Depending on what state you live in, it can be ripped from you. You could have paid $516,000 thinking you're leaving it to the kids, and now you live a little few years longer and you say, wow, I don't have any money coming in, and they're saying, hey, we want our water bill, we want our taxes, we want all this other stuff, and you're like, I don't have it. Now you're running down trying to get a mortgage for the house. Refi. Sure, you can refi, but all I'm trying to say is you already spent $20,000. So let's get down to the investment vehicle that I want to talk about. All right? So imagine this. Imagine if you said, okay, I'm going to rent this for $2,035 instead of putting down $61,000. And as you can see from the numbers, I'm saving, or I'm paying, in this case, $600 more per month. Okay? But I'm paying $600 more per month, but guess what? I have the $62,000 in my pocket. Not only do I have the $62,000 in my pocket, we have $61,800 in our pocket that we did not spend. We are at 30 years, as you can see here. I'm putting in 30 years. Fine. We're not going to touch it. We're just going to pay the $2,035. 10% interest, which is conservative. And I'm going to show you this in a second, because people are like, what are you talking about, 10%? Where do you get this at? What's going on? Eric, you're talking crazy. No, I never talk crazy. I talk facts. So as you can see here, when you calculate this for 10% for 30 years, does this say $1 million over here? That beat the 516,000 so far, right? The same amount of money I'm paying, the 14, let's see, what is it? The 1435, let's just say, there's only a difference of $600 a month. All right? For 30 years. That's it. Except there's one little thing here. As you can see, I'll pay you the $20.35. And yes, 2 years from now, I might have to pay you $21.35. 2 years from there, I might have to pay you $22.35. But I don't care, because we got 5% inflation anyhow. So as you can see, it's worth $100 more per month every year just to stay equal. But I still got $61.8 working for me while I sleep. I'm still paying $14.35 anyhow if I had the house, except now instead of giving to the house $61.8, I got $61.8, and it's making me money at 10%. And I'm going to do something else, because I want to go up here, because I want to show you something. If I was doing 14%, which is even more ludicrous, look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Does that say 3.1? Pay attention. Does that say 3.1? So, for all the people out here talking about I use cash, I spend cash, I buy crap with cash like homes, cars, RVs, all this other crap, your money could be working for you while you sleep. You're paying money anyhow wherever you live, whether you have a mortgage or not, whether you rent, okay? And if you're going to put down 20%, then you better have that house making you money. You should not be living in it because this is what you're giving up. Now, that's 14%, 3.1 million at the end of 30 years. You don't touch it. But we'll go back to 10% because everybody gets freaked out about 14. So as you can see down here, just so you can see the annual schedule, you can see the first year the interest you earn is 6,100, then it goes 6,700. Year 3, we're already at 7,500 a year. Year 4, we're at 85. You can already see here where there's a situation where if you start dividing the interest you earn by 12 and you just wanted to keep the $62,000, you could literally just use $500 a month out of your account, and now you've actually changed that 2035 to 1535 if you wanted to do that. But then that would kind of defeat the nice $1 million at the end of 30 years. All right. And meanwhile, the rent that you're paying, you could live anywhere. You're under no obligation. You can move at any time. You're flexible. Your job says you got to move. If you get fired, you're not under obligation sitting around there going, oh my God, what am I going to do here with my mortgage? You can just come to an agreement with the landlord and say, look, I lost my job. What can I do here? You can talk. That's what you should be doing right now if you lost your job due to the pandemic. So hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, you understand where I'm coming from on this. When somebody's trying to make you feel bad by saying you don't have a house, you should go get a house, save your money. In fact, the most ridiculous, save money and pay cash for a house that you're going to live in. Again, I keep saying live in, because if you're going to pay for something like a house, you should rent it out first. Then you go rent somewhere else, because now you're using money from the property to pay for your lifestyle, not the other way around. So this is why I had to make this video today, because I keep seeing a bunch of people talking about cash is king and cash is whatever, and I should always use cash. And I'm sitting there going, well, maybe sometimes it's not always that you should use your cash. It all depends on your risk tolerance. It all depends on what you're trying to do and if you have a time frame. Everything's not in stone. In some cases, you might say, yeah, cash is good. In other cases, you might say, nah, I'll use that 61.8, put in, and somebody's asking right now in their head, what's Eric talking about? Where are we getting 10%? Let me show you something. This is maximum yield right now for a Vanguard fund. It's V as in Victor, T as in Tom, I. Let me show you something here. So it came out like August 3rd. Oh, wow. August 3rd, 2001. August 3rd, 2001 to August 3rd, 2020. That's 19 years. It has earned 203.56%. Plus, they give a 2.05% dividend yield, which I didn't even include in the 10%. Okay? So in essence, that's 10% a year, ladies and gentlemen. 19 goes into 20 at least 10 times. In fact, that's 10.1 or something. So that's 10%, safe and sound, Vanguard with a dividend yield of 2%, which could be added in. All right, simple enough. Now, again, this is risk, but again, they're basing it on the stock market and what it does. You can see little dips, it happens, but it's based on the index funds. Okay, let's go to another Vanguard, VOO. They started simply after the financial crisis 2010 was still going, but basically at the end of that. So we're only talking about a 10-year-old fund here. But in those 10 years, it was prime time. We had a great market expansion. Look at this, 201% in 10 years. Is that 10 years? Let's see, September 2010 to August. Yeah, 10 years. And in fact, you know what that means? That's 20%, ladies and gentlemen. 201%, 20%. So all I'm trying to say is, when you're thinking about, I got to put down 20%, and in this case on a $300,000 house, at the end of 30 years, you could. Now, again, past performance doesn't mean future performance. But all I'm trying to illustrate is there are vehicles available to you, and this is why the one percenters always try to make sure the stock market stays up there. Because that little casino that they have, they're earning money off the backs of investors, off the backs of employees who are giving their money to hedge funds, 401k funds, and things like that. That's why they invest in the index funds, and this is why they need your money. That's why they need employees. You have to understand, this is a whole ecosystem that you may be out of. But soon as you join the ecosystem, you realize, wait a minute, why am I going to go here and give these guys $61,800 for this house, spend 30 years, spend $516,000, and then at the end of 30 years, I have a house that's worth, we don't know what that's going to be actually. It could be the house went up to $800,000. So now you're sitting there with a realized gain if you sold the house of 300 grand, which is fine. But at the same time, if things stay true to form, the 61,800 here, you would have $1 million. And you would also have a safe place to live anyhow. And yeah, I might be paying a little bit extra money because I'm renting, but at the same time, I have money. So again, change your mindset. It's not always about you got to buy a home and a home costs less and it's cheaper, mortgage rate, this, that, and the other. It depends on how old your home is. It depends on if somebody's been keeping up the home. People don't even think about this. That's why you need a home inspection. So they don't even think about, okay, the house is 15 years old, looks relatively brand new, but you don't know. Foundation's cracking, but they covered it up on the wall so you can't see the walls cracking. Then people buy the house without an inspection, without anybody checking it out. Next thing you know, a year or two later, they see the wall crack and they're like, oh man, the foundation's cracked. All right, how much does it cost to fix it? Oh, $50,000, $75,000. You follow what I'm saying? That's on you. Any maintenance of the house is on you. Garage door opener stops working. Those don't last a lifetime. $400, $500. That's on you. Somebody runs into the garage door. You need that replaced. That's on you. Think about it. The mowing the yard, that's on you. Whether you rent or not, that's on you. But I do know this, when you rent and any of those things that I described, such as the tiles went off, plumbing issues, which does happen. I'm California kid. They used to use this Plytech, Pyrex, or whatever type of tubing, and apparently it was defective, and they had to replace all of that in homes. Now, some of it was replaced because it was under warranty, luckily, and others weren't under so lucky. They had to spend $10,000 to replace all their plumbing throughout their house. So these are the things that people don't think about. Shingles get blown off, and depending on what you have, it could, run $100 or it could run $500. This stuff happens over the course of 30 years. And nobody seems to explain to people that you pay taxes. Taxes go up. They don't go down. Your home value is assessed by the county or the city, and they say, okay, look, your house is assessed for a certain number. And in fact, I'll even go right here because I think they have it here. Price and tax history. You can see right here. You can see right here, look, taxes. 2017. 40-30, 2018 40-30, but now 2019 it went up $300 because your tax assessment, the home that's assessed value went up. So you can see right here, this is what's going to happen when there's inflation, when things are going to cost more, and when your property rises in value, you pay more in taxes and you're going to pay more in tax assessment. So that's how it works. So that 516 number that they have there is actually not going to be 516. Because all you have to do is start thinking, look what they did here. They went up from 2016, 9%, to 2018, they went up 2%. 2019, they went up another 9%. When you divide that by 3, that's 20%. So basically, they're at 6.6. annual assessment going up, which means your taxes are going up. So as you can see here, after 2 years, the third year, the taxes rose. So now you paid more, which again, people seem to forget about. Don't think nothing of it. So in essence, that 516 isn't going to be 516 over here. Because built in here, look at this, they only have $200 a month in taxes. You see what I'm saying? Over 30 years. But if you start adding in additional taxes, such as, I'll do it this way. I'll put in like $20, let's say, because that's $240 a year. Yeah, we'll put that in, and let's see what happens when I add $240 a year when the HOAs, which I'll offset that. Now you done spent $523. That's just off of if it went up 10%. Your tax, you're already at $200 a month. 10%. So you can see it's going 6% a year. So now, instead of that being 20, let's just call it 25, 3 years from now. So you can see this is what's going to happen, but people don't look at none of this. They don't look at none of this. Now you done paid $525. So it just keeps going because they're going to raise it up every few years because you have inflation. So anyhow, all this talk kind of gets it. If anybody has any questions or comments down below, if you're trying to boost your credit score up, let me know, because if you're trying to actually buy a home or buy property, you can get your credit score increased within 30 to 45 days. We have a few score hacks that you can use, and you'll see links down below with my jewelers, with New Coast Direct, with Us Publishing, with Hutton Chase. We even have AU Trade Lines. So don't let anybody stop you from buying anything, whether it's personal property. And notice this veterans here. I keep forgetting to mention veterans. There's a lot of you veterans out there that you actually have a 0% down payment and you can get a VA loan. A lot of military personnel do not know this, and they're sitting on the streets homeless. And yeah, if you're homeless on the streets, you don't have revenue coming in. You might have a VA pension coming in, which might be able to cover a low-cost condo. But all I'm trying to say is there may be no reason for, if you're a veteran or a military veteran of any type, that you shouldn't be utilizing that 0% down and getting yourself into something that's comfortable that you can afford. So that's all I have to say, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And please like, subscribe, and click the bell below so you get the latest updates. And I know it's hard out here. This is why I'm trying to get you to understand that cash that you have is more valuable than you think. Stop thinking that you need to put it towards objects instead of putting it somewhere that actually earns money for you while you sleep. That's what you need. All right? And you also need those extra streams of income. So join our Facebook group and become an emerging millionaire. I'm trying to get you there. Let's do it. And don't stop. You got another 20, 30 years to live, 40 years to live, depending on your age. So why not start now? You can start small, a little here, a little there. It all adds up, especially when it's earning 10%, 6%, 7%, and go get that AT&T shares, earn 7% on your money. And you get dividends, which is based on the 7% on your money, because that's your dividends is 7% of what you invest. So there's a bunch of ways you can do this, and think about it. All right? So thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen, again. And keep your head up, keep moving, and I'm out.